as well as very, very complex. Have you seen television or some equipment, some electronic machines when it is open, when its box is open to repair? Especially television, old days television. Have you seen uncovered television? पछाडिको त्यो डब्बा खोलेको wire connections, chips. Have you seen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So you must have seen those complex wire system, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so our endocrine system is also that complex. Okay, our endocrine system is similarly complex. All the wire system circuits, okay, that connect. There are two types of connections. One is neurohumoral, like neural system, nervous system is complexly connected with the brain and the spinal column and the spinal tracts, isn't it? And the nerves that exist through the vertebral column. One is that it is very complex, and from head to toe, from very minute portion of the skin to every part of body is innervated, and it is connected with the central nervous system. Similarly, this endocrine system, but it is not only connected with the this wiring, it is also connected with the humoral system. Humoral means the transmitters, okay? And those transmitters in endocrine system are called hormones. So so this endocrine system is associated with hormones, okay? Now, who is the head of the department of this endocrine system? Any idea?
Hypothalamus.
Pituitary.
The topmost is hypothalamus, and then pituitary, and then the peripheral organ. Suppose we are talking about the gonadal hormones, then hypothalamus, pituitary, gonadal axis. Similarly, different endocrine organs are there. Can you name some of them one by one?
Pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, pancreas,
Very good.
adrenal, gonadal,
Yes.
and thymus.
Which is the endocrine organ in gonads?
Testis and ovary.
Very good. Yeah. What else?
And I know this too.
Okay.
Pineal gland.
Okay, yes, pineal gland. Pineal gland is a rudimentary gland. Which hormone it secretes?
Melatonin.
And in what condition melatonin is secreted? Any idea?
Sleep-wake cycle first.
Sorry. Like what does melatonin do? Do you know?
Maintains the biological.
Okay, melatonin. I won't like to elaborate much, but melatonin is a hormone that is secreted by pineal gland, which is a rudimentary gland. It is the smallest organ, internal organ in the body. Okay, pineal gland is the smallest organ in the body, and it has association with depression. And it is secreted, it becomes active or hyperactive when a person lives for longer time in darkness. Many people, some of you also, maybe you like to stay in a little dark. You may close your curtain even in sunlight, isn't it? You don't like to open your curtain or want to make the room little darker. So in such situation, melatonin becomes active, and there is the pineal gland becomes active, and there is secretion of melatonin, and that melatonin actually causes sleepiness and depression. So God has made this darkness and light, so we should expose to sunlight in daytime, and we should face darkness in the night time. We should not face darkness in the daytime. Always live in a ventilated and aerated and ventilated room where sunlight goes easily. Okay, so let's start. I hope many of you have already joined. So endocrine organ. The topmost organ is hypothalamo-pituitary axis. Okay, hypothalamus is the king, is the head of the endocrine system. It gives all the orders, and that order is followed by peripheral organs through secondary order from the pituitary. Pituitary is divided into anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. So most of the hormones are secreted by anterior pituitary. Can you name some?
Growth hormone.
Yeah.
prolactin,
Is it growth hormone directly?
No, somatostatin, I think. Mm.
What else?
thyroid stimulating hormone, ACTH, FSH, LH.
Okay, great. So you have got good idea. So let's discuss. So pituitary gland is a gland that is located at the base of the brain. It has two lobes, anterior and posterior. Major portion of hormones are secreted by anterior. Now the anterior is the master gland that secretes many hormones, and it stimulates the organs to release further other hormones. Okay. Posterior gland secretes only few hormones, and they are very specific hormones. You are usually asked in Viva, what are the hormones that are secreted by neurophysis or posterior pituitary? Anterior pituitary is known as adenophysis, okay, adenohypophysis, and posterior pituitary is known as neurohypophysis. So, what is secreted by posterior pituitary? They are very specific antidiuretic hormone. Okay, which disease occurs if there is deficiency of antidiuretic hormone?
Diabetes insipidus.
Very good. Then vasopressin and oxytocin. What is the role of oxytocin?
Uterine contraction during labor.
Yeah, and smooth muscle contraction overall, not only uterus. Even the breast myoepithelial cells get contracted during lactation.
Lactation.
Oxytocin. Okay, similarly, vasopressin, it is responsible for hemodynamic stability of blood pressures. All right. And then anterior pituitary secretes 6 hormones that targets the peripheral glands and tissues, and this is controlled by the releasing hormones from hypothalamus. Okay. So some of these hormones that are secreted are growth hormone, which precursor from hypothalamus is growth hormone releasing hormone. All the releasing hormones are secreted by hypothalamus. All the active hormones are secreted by pituitary. So growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, okay. And then what else?
Luteinizing and follicle stimulating hormone.
Stimulating hormone and
Prolactin.
prolactin hormone. Very good. I think one slide is mistakenly deleted. I have mentioned only here 3. Okay. So these hypothalamus and pituitary are closely related, both anatomically as well as functionally, and they help regulate all body process. By there are at least 15 hormones and many more in research. Okay, and these both lobes of pituitary are under the control of hypothalamus, as we have already understood. So how they communicate? They communicate with the some regulatory factors through portal blood vessels. There is portal system in brain also, just like hepatoportal system. There is portal system in brain also. So there is communication with that portal system. Now we will start with thyroid gland. Okay, so after hypothalamus and pituitary in the hierarchy in an anatomical pattern, the first gland we encounter is thyroid. It is situated at the anterior neck, isn't it? Anterior to the trachea, it is butterfly-like. 2 lobes are there which are connected by the isthmus, and they basically secrete 2 hormones. That is T3 known as triiodothyronine and thyroxine T4, and you will study in biochemistry how this T3 and T4 are formed and converted to each other. Now, do you know thyroid function test? Thyroid function test.
Yes, ma'am.
The test that is included in thyroid function test. Yes, apart from the hormones of thyroid gland, that is T3, T4, TSH is also included, that is pituitary hormone. Now, how that is interpreted, that whether the hormone is deficient or increased only at the peripheral level, or there is role of the central governors. Okay, so suppose T3, T4 is decreased in blood. So what is that condition? T3, T4 is decreased.
Hypothyroidism.
Thyroid. Now the student must understand that when there is hypothyroidism, suppose your mom asks to eat on the dining table, and you people are not eating the food properly. So what will mom say? She will force you to eat. She will encourage you to eat, isn't it? So she will keep on shouting till you finish your meal. Similarly here, when there is decrease in amount, the pituitary becomes active. Okay, and it will produce more, and means the hormone which is produced by pituitary is actually the order. So that order is increased more and more. So what will happen to TSH now if T3, T4 is decreased?
Increases.
Yes, so TSH is increased, and usually you people do mistakes in exams. Many of you mentioned that all T3, T4, and TSH are decreased. No, remember that TSH is a pituitary hormone and it is inversely proportional. It goes up when these two parameters go down from the feedback mechanism. In physiology, they must have taught you nicely what is feedback mechanism. So by feedback mechanism, that is increased. Okay, so now stimulation of what is the function, some of the actions of this thyroid hormone, they stimulate of energy use, means the basal metabolism rate is maintained or increased by thyroid hormone. If thyroid function is decreased, then people is lethargic, there is malaise, there is less activity, the basal metabolism is decreased, and then there is weight gain. Okay, similarly stimulation of the heart, it leads to the increased heart rate and increased force of contraction, increased cardiac output, isn't it? So now if it is decreased, what will happen? There will be in hypothyroidism, the cardiac output is decreased, patient may go in hypotension, there is decreased heart rate. So that will also cause them slowness, laziness, isn't it? And at the same time, for the brain and skeletal development, this thyroid hormone is very, very important. You must have studied how from iodine this thyroid hormone are produced. So during intrauterine life, if there is iodine deficiency, the thyroid hormone will be deficient. Then what happens? Any idea? What happens to the newborn? Apart from
Cretinism.
yeah, yes, Raksha?
Cretinism.
Yes, that's
Cretinism.
known as cretinism. Okay, cretinism, in which there is dwarfism, there is mental retardation, there is flabbiness. So creatines, infants are born from the hypothyroid mother. Okay, and the primary cause usually is thyroid gland disorder, while the secondary cause can be because of the lack of TSH secretion, okay, or drugs. Now, similarly, hyperthyroidism, there will be increased T3, T4 because the thyroid gland is very active. So everything goes high, like metabolic rate, the heart rate, blood pressure, everything. And what is the disease that comes under hyperthyroidism? One of the example?
Graves' disease.
Yes, Graves' disease, and this disease is known as the condition of thyrotoxicosis. Means there are toxic features because of increase in thyroid hormones, and it can be treated with some drugs, okay, and like carbimazole and all, and even sometimes surgery, radioactive iodine, and those drugs are known as the drugs that is used to treat this hyperthyroidism as known as antithyroidal drugs. Now coming to brief introduction to endocrine system, we will talk about Graves' disease in detail also. So I'm just trying to give introduction. So coming to adrenals, in adrenals it is located above the kidney, just on the top of kidney. It is also known as suprarenal gland because it is above the kidney, and they have two sections. They have medulla and they have cortex, and medulla releases epinephrine and norepinephrine, while adrenal cortex releases steroids like glucocorticoids and mineralocorticoids. Okay, main glucocorticoid that is circulated in our blood, that acts on our different components are cortisol. Okay, corticosteroids, cortisol, and mineralocorticoid. Main mineralocorticoid is aldosterone. That is also covered by physiology. Now, briefly, I will tell you what are the function of these. What happens when the cortisol is increased and what happens when the cortisol is decreased. And then these are very basic Viva questions, very straightforward. So the function of corticosteroid is it promotes sodium retention and potassium excretion, means there is role in water balance. Okay, water is associated with electrolytes. It balances electrolytes, sodium retention, potassium excretion from the renal tubules. Okay, and because of that influences electrolytes, carbohydrate, protein, fat, metabolism. And if there is deficiency of this corticosteroid, there can be serious illness. One of the example of increased corticosteroid secretion and the disease is known as Cushing syndrome. Have you seen any Cushing child? Usually it is seen in young patients in the pediatric age group. Have you seen any Cushing child in pictures, books, videos, or real patient?
Yes, ma'am.
The typical clinical features that the child's face is very edematous, looks puffy, and we call it moon faces. Okay, they have mental retardation, they have psychosis. All right, their body is flabby, they are obese, there are purple stria, buffalo hump, and many other such features you can see in Robbins also. Now, among the glucocorticoid that is influenced by adrenocorticotropic hormone released from the anterior pituitary gland, it affects carbohydrate, protein, and fat metabolism. So, when it is increased, the person has got hyperglycemia, okay, protein denaturation or protein deficiency, and fat accumulation. The person becomes obese. Similarly, the sodium water retention is affected, and because of that, the BP is affected, and there is high blood pressure. Those children are hypertensives. Okay, but however, this cortisol is a very good drug. In any inflammatory condition, any infection, any serious illness, we give steroid. Okay, any dermatological disease where we cannot treat the patient. Okay, when our mind stops to think what may be the cause and what may be the treatment, then only drug that affects is steroid. However, because it has very, very serious complications, so it should not be used irrationally. Okay, like for example, one patient came with dermatitis. He was given a steroid ointment for say 1 week or 5 days or 4 days, and she was benefited. But because she was benefited and that rash was on and off, so she kept on using it for months and months and months. So what happened? After that, she comes with diabetes, she comes with hypertension, she comes with thinning of the skin, mental psychosis, and all. So we have seen many such cases of this drug abuse, steroid abuse. So one should get fear of using steroid. Avoid steroid as much as possible in minor illnesses. While in serious illnesses, it can be life-saving. In that time, we have to judge the complication and the benefit. And because the benefit is more, then of course we have to use. Suppose the person has got fever, will use paracetamol. May not affect for 1 day. Second day, paracetamol, BD or TDS. Third day, like that. But once the person takes steroid, okay, corticosteroid, fever is gone. It is such an potent anti-inflammatory. Now the question must come in your mind, then why don't we use steroid straightforward? Sorry. So it's because of its very much adverse effects. Okay. Now, most wide variety of glucocorticoid that is used in the drug form is cortisone drug, that is synthetic, which tries to avoid some of the side effects, but still the side effects are very much. So for stress effects, allergic and inflammation, this cortisol is रामबाण एकदमै छिटो ठिक पार्ने. Okay, so by now you might have understood in general any of the endocrine pathology is based either on the overproduction or underproduction of the hormone that is produced by that particular organ. Okay, what will happen if there is overproduction? The organ is hyperplastic and is producing more hormone. So why there is hyperplasia? The hyperplasia may be either from the hormone itself, okay, hormone is giving feedback mechanism, or there is neoplastic process or by combination process, okay. Underproduction, either there is destruction of the gland which was producing the hormone, or there is some trophic influence, okay, there is some lack of signal. Now starting from the pituitary, what happens in hyperpituitarism? If the pituitary is more active, is producing more hormone, then it is called hyperpituitarism. If the pituitary is really releasing less hormones, then it is called hypopituitarism. It is a physiopathological condition. We are running out of time, so we will readmit, okay, if we'll get disconnected. So, overproduction of pituitary hormones that is derived from anterior, usually this hyperpituitarism is denoted to anterior pituitary hormones. The cause may be usually neoplasm. Okay, neoplasm, usually they are benign neoplasm, but because they are in brain, they are in the base of the brain, the symptoms, the morbidity, the chances of mortality is equivalent to malignancy. All right, because of their location. So adenomas can be somatotrophic adenomas or corticotrophic adenomas, means producing somatotrophic hormones or corticotrophic hormones. The other causes can be hyperplasia. Okay, without neoplasia, there can be some hyperplasia because of the different feedback mechanisms. Okay, and some of the examples of these adenomas are prolactinomas and pharyngioma. That is common, one of the common, and sometimes even malignancy, carcinomas, pituitary carcinoma are also there. So among pituitary adenomas, most pituitary adenomas occur in the elderly, say in the mid part of the life, like 4 to 6 decades of life, and they are one of the very important cause of hyperpituitarism. We have to rule out neoplasm when there is more hormone analysis is abnormal. And 30% of the adenomas are prolactinomas. On the basis of hormone production, prolactinomas are very common. Second most common is growth hormone producing pituitary adenoma, followed by ACTH producing, means corticosteroid releasing. Okay, then we have hardly seen any adenoma that produces TSS, though we see more cases of hyper and hypothyroidism. Means at peripheral level, thyroid has got many neoplasm. However, at the level of pituitary, it is rare. Okay, so commonest is prolactinomas, growth hormone producing adenomas, and adrenocorticotrophic producing adenomas. Now there are certain conditions which is not though very common, but there are certain conditions that secrete combination of hormones, and those adenomas are known as plurihormonal, plurihormonal adenomas. Okay, and they are usually the combination of prolactin and growth hormone, and they are known as mixed tumors producing prolactin and growth hormone. And there is another entity which is also usually asked in Viva, is null cell adenoma, and many of you don't answer. So please note, that null cell adenomas are the masses that are present in pituitary at the base of the brain, but they don't produce any hormone. So there is only mass effect. Okay, when we do hormone analysis, we don't get any abnormality. They don't produce. They are not actively active as hormone production, but they are producing the mass effect in the pituitary, and they are known as null cell adenoma. Now I'll show you the picture. This is a picture in which there is very large, this is base of the skull, isn't it? You can make this is orbital area and anterior area, and here at the base of the brain, you can see a large adenoma, and it was actually the incidental finding in the autopsy. Okay, the patient had no such hormonal problem, isn't it? Can you see this big size tumor here?
Yes,
Listen, you can see the arrow, right? Okay, so next, after pituitary, next we'll discuss briefly about the adrenal insufficiency. It is caused by the disorder of the pituitary gland in which the ACTS production is decreased. ACTS production is responsible for production of corticosteroids as well as mineralocorticoid. Okay, when there is adrenal cortical insufficiency, when there is ACTS deficiency, then there is adrenal cortical, the adrenal cortex part. Cortex produces steroids, while the medulla produces the neurotransmitters like epinephrine and norepinephrine, isn't it? That should be very clear because the hormone which is produced by pituitary is adrenocorticotropic. Tropic means that induces adrenocorticotropic hormone, and that adrenocortic hormone acts on the cortex of the adrenal gland. So you have to correlate with that. Okay, and there are many conditions. There are so many conditions of adrenocortical deficiency. In pediatrics, you have to study many more. One is pituitary adenoma, of course, and then usually that is a big adenoma, craniopharyngioma, even TB of the organ, sarcoidosis. Okay, lymphocytic hypophysitis means there is a local inflammation of the pituitary. Trauma, head injury, one of the very important cause of adrenocortical deficiency. Okay, then vascular abnormalities like aneurysm, postpartum pituitary necrosis, Sinhan syndrome, all these and metastatic tumor, all these are very, very important cause. Have you heard of Sinhan syndrome?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we will also discuss that. That is one of the favorite questions in pathology. Okay, so these are primary causes of adrenocortical deficiency. And when there is problem of hypothalamus, okay, there is deficiency of releasing hormone, then that is called secondary or tertiary cause. Okay, there will be secondary adrenocortical deficiency because of tertiary insufficiency. So basically, we say it's secondary. Okay. So I will not go in laboratory right now because in laboratory portion you can understand that if there is releasing hormone deficiency, there is local hormone deficiency also. So let's discuss. I'm just going through curriculum, okay? Whatever is mentioned in curriculum, we cannot go very much detail in everything. As curriculum mentions, the pathology, we will keep on discussing that. Okay, so we are going serially. The next interesting portion is Sinhan syndrome. You will come across this throughout your career. Whether you be gynecologist or you be physician or you be endocrinologist or whatever. Okay, you can encounter all these things. All right. So this is also known as postpartum pituitary gland necrosis. Now, why there should be necrosis of pituitary gland in postpartum period? Why should there be hypopituitarism? Because there is high chances of bleeding during delivery, whether it is normal delivery or CS, and brain is very sensitive organ in terms of ischemia and hypoxia. Okay, so what happens? There is hypopituitarism, that is decreased function of pituitary gland because of ischemic necrosis due to blood loss or hypovolemic shock during the childbirth or even after the childbirth. So one should be very cautious whether it is about you, your family, your relatives. During childbirth, the volume maintenance is very, very important. What will be the initial symptoms? that is absence of lactation. So every case, there are many people take it very easily that that person had delivery but had no lactation. So they are doing bottle feeding. Yes, you will do bottle feeding, but at the same time you evaluate that lady why she is not lactating. Because physiologically every mother after giving childbirth should lactate, isn't it? So why there is no lactation? So you must find it out by the hormonal evaluation. Any pituitary ischemia should not be neglected. It has long-term effect on mother psychology, mental behaviors, and in the body functions. Okay, so all galactorrhea, absence of lactation or difficult lactation, the baby is not sucking milk, milk is not adequate. All these things are one of the symptom of the Shinhan syndrome. Another is oligomenorrhea or amenorrhea. Many ladies say that they had no periods for like 9. Normally, also for a couple of months there is no menorrhagia or no periods. But still, if there is amenorrhea and oligomenorrhea, one must be evaluated. That can be part of Shinhan syndrome. So it is not that common though we need to be cautious because in hospital management we arrange blood before doing CS and we open IV line and we keep on giving fluid even during labor. In previous days the mothers used to be kept in the labor room, they used to deliver, then they were sent for oral fluid and oral food, but now we at least open the IV line because we need to augment the labor sometime, induce the labor sometimes. So in hospital management it's a rare complication, okay, but still, and it is caused by the pituitary necrosis, ischemic necrosis, pituitary damage, and there is decrease in either one or many of the hormones that is normally seen.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So as we were discussing that this Shinhan syndrome is because of the pituitary gland necrosis following, during and after birth, hypovolemic shock, because even after the birth there can be heavy bleeding and patient may have hypoxia in the brain. And we talked what is the important clinical features. So these two clinical features you must remember. Sometimes we ask in MCQ and in Viva, which is the most common clinical features. So it is algalactorrhea and oligomenorrhea. Among the algalactorrhea and oligomenorrhea, most common is algalactorrhea. Okay, students are still coming. So it is one of the rare complication, and there is damage to pituitary which causes decrease in one and more hormones to secrete, and there is low portal venous pressure, low pressure at the cerebral portal venous system in this condition. Okay. Now there is another topic. This is the last topic for today. Is empty sella syndrome. Empty sella syndrome. It is there in our curriculum. So it is very interesting condition. Okay, in which incidentally if we do CT of the patient, usually CT scan, so we find that there is a condition in which pituitary shrinks or becomes flattened. Okay, so the sella turcica only contains CSF. There is no pituitary at all. Sometimes it is very small pituitary or there is no pituitary at all. Okay, have you heard of empty sella? What is the name of that fossa where pituitary lies? Do you know from anatomy?
Sella turcica.
Yes, that's sella turcica. When it is empty on radio imaging, we call it empty sella syndrome or empty sella turcica syndrome, isn't it? Sometimes it is also designated as empty pituitary fossa. Empty sella is also known as empty pituitary fossa. It is relatively common but incidental finding. As a part of the diagnostic work of a pituitary disorder. Suppose there is hypopituitarism, then the person is evaluated for why there are less hormone discharge. So we see that the pituitary is shrunken, very small, or the sella turcica is almost empty and is replaced by cerebrospinal fluid instead of the structure, parenchymal structure. Okay, and it has association with idiopathic intracranial hypertension. A well-established association is established between increased intracranial hypertension, which is idiopathic, not from some mass, and pituitary. So gradually what happens, there is ischemic damage to pituitary, and because of that ischemic damage, gradually over time, the organ is shrunken because of high blood pressure, high local blood pressure, increased intracranial hypertension. Okay, there are certain conditions in which there can be increased intracranial hypertension, which I will not go in detail, but there is relation between these two entities. And as the name suggests, the hallmark is in the pituitary fossa, in the sella turcica, there is large empty space. Okay, there is no tissue and it is just replaced by CSF. So this thing is asked in Viva, so you must be clear about that. Okay. And the cause can be primary cause and secondary cause. The secondary empty cellular syndrome happens when there is either tumor or surgical damage to the gland. Okay, that means that is acquired. Somebody had history of pituitary surgery. The tumor was removed. After that, some vascular injury occurred because brain is very delicate structure. So gradually there is atrophy of the pituitary gland. And most common cause is idiopathic intracranial hypertension. The association is in 70% of the patient. In MRI, we see empty sella. Okay. Sometimes we attribute this primary empty sella syndrome as congenital. Okay. Diaphragma sella, which is a sellar diaphragm, is a flat piece of dura mater with a circular hole that allows the vertical passage of pituitary stalk. Okay, pituitary stalk goes through sella diaphragm or diaphragma sella, and it retains the pituitary beneath it in the fossa. Okay, because roof of the fossa of the sella turcica is almost completely roofed. Okay, so sometimes congenitally this diaphragma sella is compromised, and because of that there is empty sella syndrome. Okay. And what is the clinical feature of this empty sella syndrome? The feature of increased intracranial pressure, headaches, blurred vision or visual loss, okay, and features other some non-specific features of hypopituitarism. Any of the organ can be affected. Okay, so there are so many other clinical features. There are list of clinical features like medullary cycles are abnormal, or there is cryptorchidism, or there is long head, that is known as dolichocephaly, long head than expected. Relatively, the person's head in the comparison to width is longer. Can be certain syndromes like Arnold-Chiari syndrome, meningocele, patent ductal arteriosus, muscular hypotonia, and many more. But most common feature, because 70% of the cases are associated with increased intracranial hypertension, and the clinical feature of increased intracranial hypertension are headache, blurred vision, and sometimes visual loss. If you can remember some of them, the interesting one is dolichocephaly. Okay. For some unknown reason, some of these cases are uh, found to have longer head than the expected. Okay, and Arnold-Chiari syndrome, in which there is structural defect in the cerebellum with the downward displacement of the cerebellar tonsil to foramen magnum. So you can remember few of them. So that's it about the pituitary. Okay, we had some introduction of endocrinology that you are already aware of. I'm glad on that you have studied from anatomy, physiology, and all. Also be aware of the biochemistry, how these hormones are produced, how they are synthesized. Okay, and then the introduction part, we don't have much to talk about hypothalamus, because it is just the ordering organ, and sometimes even neoplastic condition come, but that is not in our curriculum. So pituitary is included in this lecture. With the next lecture we will start a new topic, the endocrinology. All right, any question till now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, So carry on. Thank you so much. Enjoy your
Thank you.
lunch. Stay safe. Take